Hello and welcome to People and Power. I'm Lauren Taylor. On today's programme, is rape being used as a weapon in Libya?
In our regime, in our society, really, you cannot really just go ahead in the city and rape women without someone tell them do that.
Colonel Gaddafi, his son Saif and his intelligence chief Abdullah Senussi were indicted by the International Criminal Court this week, charged with crimes against humanity allegedly committed during the Libyan uprising. The ICC said there were reasonable grounds to believe that the three men were responsible for the murder and the persecution of civilians. The charges are based on an investigation by the court's chief prosecutor, Luis Moreno Ocampo, launched in February at the behest of the UN Security Council. So far, the indictment relates only to the first weeks of the conflict, but it's likely to expand to cover subsequent events. If so, then the court may also be asked to rule on allegations that Gaddafi's regime has used rape as a weapon against its opponents. These claims first surfaced in March, when a Libyan woman, Ayman al-Obeidi, burst into a Tripoli hotel and told journalists she'd been raped by security forces. Though she was quickly bundled away, other similar accusations have since emerged. But as Al Jazeera's Sue Turton has been finding out, getting evidence to substantiate the claims is far from easy. Some of the content in this film is disturbing.
Despite the uprising that has torn this country apart, Libya is still a socially conservative society. Fathers, husbands and brothers still make decisions for most women. And rape is a subject rarely acknowledged, even within families or between women themselves. Friday prayers in the rebel stronghold Benghazi. The walls around this main square are plastered with images of martyrs of the struggle against Colonel Muammar Gadaffi. There are hundreds of faces. Only a handful are women. But at times of political upheaval such as this, women are at great risk. Rape, if committed by a combatant against a non-combatant or against a prisoner of war, is a war crime. And the allegation in Libya is not just that there have been rapes, but that they may have been systematic and widespread.
I think it was both. It was systematic, ordered by the top, and was widespread. Torture, killing, normal in Libya. That was normal, that they expected. But the rapes was unexpected.
When the revolution began on February the 15th, the outside world was immediately concerned about the plight of civilians.
The United Nations reacted swiftly, immediately instructing the International Criminal Court to investigate the Gaddafi regime for war crimes and for crimes against humanity. Then 4 months later, it took those investigations to another level.
The new level, an investigation by the International Criminal Court into allegations that rape is being used as a weapon of war, which at least one chief war crimes investigator believes have substance.
Gaddafi himself decided to rape, and this is new. It never was the pattern he used to control the population. The rape is a new aspect of the repression.
I was taken by surprise, particularly because he made that press conference on the same day that we were issuing our report.
Within hours of the ICC announcement, at a press conference thousands of miles away, the head of the UN Commission of Inquiry in Libya declared, as yet, there was no proof of anything, just a lot of accusations.
We go over to Tripoli, and guess what? The same story comes up. This time it's the government people who are telling us, you know what? The opponents have a policy of rape.
We conducted our investigation. He did his investigation. He cannot confirm that, and it's fair for him to say, I have no proof. It's okay.
It's an explosive announcement which, at least from my perspective and the perspective of my colleagues, we have not been able to document what he is claiming.
Two top human rights investigators with completely different views on on whether rape is being used as a weapon of war. So who is right? The world first became aware of rape as an issue in Libya in late March, when Ayman al-Obeidi dramatically rushed into a Tripoli hotel used by journalists. She claimed she'd been gang-raped by Gaddafi soldiers. Security agents bundled her away, and a government spokesperson swiftly appeared, claiming she was drunk, mentally ill, and a prostitute. Her family fought back.
البارح في متأخر الليل الساعة 3 في الليل اتصلوا بي من باب العزيزية وقالوا لي خلي بنتك إيمان تغير إيمان أقوالها وتوا نطلقوها فورا وما تطلبي تاخذيه من فلوس من تبني حوش جديد اللي تبيها كلها وعيالك وتقدي مضمونة أنت وعيالك بس خلي إيمان تغير أقوالها.
Women took to the streets in support. The rape issue was placed squarely in the public consciousness. Soon after, we heard the first claims of rape from a rebel soldier who was guarding captured Gaddafi troops.
كان عمرنا مسكناها في الدبابة جو وحالة نفسية لا يرثى لها طبعا لأن شيء غريب بنت عمرها 14 سنة يتم اغتصابها ويتم اختطافها من مدينة تبعد عن بنغازي 800 كيلو اللي جاية مع مرتزقة 800 كيلو شوف أنت شو نداروا فيها في الطريق وكانوا في حالة هستيرية طبعا هم لأن مش على وعيهم.
People from all walks of life were telling me similar stories, speaking quietly about rape, but always about someone who didn't want to be identified. Had it really happened, or was it just talk? Towards the end of March, I travelled south from Benghazi to the frontline town of Ashdabia. Gaddafi's fighters had fought hard to take back control here, committing atrocities on many residents. Ultimately, the rebels won. It had been hard enough to report the fighting here, harder still to report something we couldn't see.
We got back into the city centre here in Ashdabia just the day after Gaddafi's troops had been pushed out. There'd been a real fear, as we've been watching from afar, that there had been abuse and there had been rape happening behind these doors. But even when we got inside this city and asked the questions, there was a real reluctance to talk about the sorts of abuse that had been meted out by Gaddafi's troops.
People were happy to show us physical damage. This family was lucky enough to flee the town before government troops attacked. This man says they escaped before a mortar hit their house. For many of those who couldn't escape Ashdabia, the consequences were clearly dreadful. But the women did not speak about rape. At the hospital, we heard some stories, albeit second-hand.
I can tell you that they are raping the women. They are raping the women. They are killing the child. This is the truth.
Throughout the fighting in Ashdabia, Dr. Suleiman Rafadi was dealing with frontline casualties, including victims of rape.
Can you tell me what happened to them? Did you learn what exactly happened?
Her child was in the street. He was looking in the street, and she was trying to get him inside. So they have taken her out, and they have taken it again. They have raped her. This is one woman. The other one, they have entered her house because her house was very near to the southern gate, which is going to Al Brega. They have entered this house, and they have raped this woman. As you know, sometime if I will bring cadaver to the hospital, I will search in the pocket. I have seen Viagra, and I have seen condoms also.
And you ascertain from that that's why, because they were going to rape?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
We are trying to confirm this with the situation in different places where we have records of in one city 100 women raped, in another place 250 women raped. We are trying to find some doctors or social assistants who were assisting these people, and we believe we will get some soldiers who confess that. Additionally, some information we are trying to check on these Viagra type products that they were bought in advance. That is a very powerful evidence because you prove the systematicity, you prove the widespread, you prove the involvement of the top leaders. Otherwise, it's a beautiful evidence.
Well, we don't know if there is or is not a policy that came out from the top for the Libyan government forces to carry out a policy of systematic rape. We hear allegations of that, but we don't see either the actual number of victims, nor do we have any documentation or, if you will, some type of trail, whether it's oral or paper, to show where it happened.
Gaddafi never gave order in writing, and I don't know any case in the world that you will find an order to rape in writing. No, these orders are not in writing. But we are collecting information that he gave orders to rape.
Egyptian-born Sherif Bassiouni is a distinguished professor of law and formerly the head of the Security Council Commission to investigate war crimes in ex-Yugoslavia. Luis Moreno Ocampo has been chief prosecutor at the ICC since 2003. Prior to that, he worked in his native Argentina, where most famously, in 1985, he helped prosecute senior military officials in the trial of the juntas.
Well, the prosecutor obviously is charged with leading the investigation. That's his job. Bassiouni, an expert in war crimes and crimes against humanity, etc., is going to be more of expert, but he's also going to be probably a little bit more academic. But I think the conversation between the two men about this issue is really interesting because if there's one thing that we know about allegations of rape on a mass scale, it's a very volatile allegation, and it often is very politicized. There's nothing that gets communities more up in arms than the idea that their women are being targeted for sexual violence.
Both Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch had investigators on the ground in Libya and along the Tunisian border, where huge numbers of displaced people are now in camps. They were looking for evidence and victims of rape, but found nothing.
We had people in Libya for about 14 weeks. Our researchers interviewed numerous people, but not a single person came forward with testimony about being a victim of sexual violence. At this point, we don't have evidence to support the allegations.
We collect our evidence outside Libya in order to protect our witness. But we identify witnesses who escaped from Libya, and we chase them, and when they're in a safe place, we interview them. That's what we do. So we conduct interviews around the world.
So he is going on what people are telling him, and as I said, because this story of rape has had such an extraordinary impact on Libyan society, it's quite likely that a large number of persons would go on and in fully good faith and belief and repeat some stories which may not necessarily have any basis to them.
Back in Benghazi, 150 kilometres from the front line, but still nervous that Gaddafi forces could return, I tracked down someone who had spoken out soon after the uprising about rape. Psychologist Dr. Seyham Sagewa, trained in London. She had claimed to have evidence that Gaddafi was using rape as a weapon of war.
Do you think they had direct orders?
I think so. It's been used as a weapon of war, I think, and rape has been used all over the world in weapon of war to fear the people, to put the fear in these women and fear their husband and their brothers and their children who's been fight against them. I think to put the fear so they leave the town for Gaddafi and his soldier and the runaway for them to enter. I think he used it as a weapon of war, yeah, of course. I think in our regime and our society really, You cannot really just go ahead in the city and rape women without someone tell them do that. I think everybody since that he got the feeling, everybody, that there is some order or something to do with these things by kidnapping the women and rape them.
Dr. Segewa says she knows this because of the responses she got to her questionnaires. She claims to have distributed 70,000 of them to women in April, asking questions about trauma.
By the end of the questionnaire, there's 5 questions about rape. Like, have you been raped? By whom? Have you been a parent or your family watched you during your rape? If it is not, did you tell your family? Have you done your investigations? And for my surprise, it comes like 259 women, they said yes, they've been raped.
We have asked her to give us the data. She has not given us the data. And I frankly have real questions about anybody who was able to distribute 70,000 questionnaires and receive 60,000 replies in a region where the mail isn't working, where it's impossible to go from town to town. This is a criminal investigation. You just don't go on people's word. You have to investigate and find out whether the evidence stands up or not.
Whether her research stands up to scrutiny or not, Dr. Segewa soon made the headlines. This was a Libyan psychologist who said she knew systematic rape had taken place. She produced photographs as evidence, which appeared to show cigarette burns and bruises. It was impossible to say if they were related to rape. And the only completed questionnaire I saw detailed an attempted rape.
She said there's someone tried to attempt to rape me. They demolish my home, and when I run, they come and they try to rape me. And when my husband starts shouting at them, by some way I escape.
I pushed the doctor to show me more questionnaires or to introduce me to women who've been raped or to hear their stories.
What we're getting is obviously people like yourself who've met people, but a crucial bit of the jigsaw we're missing is somebody actually describing what happened.
No, I can't really. For this, really, I can't.
It's hardly surprising that if a woman had been raped, she wouldn't want anyone to know. Libyan society is very conservative. Even suggesting that women from a certain town or region were raped could cast a shadow on all women from there. It could mean they would never marry or leave them ostracised.
There is what we would call a social stigma, okay? And the social stigma not necessarily only imposed on you or upon you by the outside people. It's something that you feel inside. This is a society that still looks at virginity as something that is very sacred. It is a dilemma. It is a dilemma. On one side, we have justice that needs to be fulfilled. And on the other side, we have the services that the victim should receive. Now, if in the course of trying to fulfill justice, I would discourage the victim from coming forward, or a number of victims from coming forward, then I would lean more towards providing the service and justice, let it be for God.
But there are people inside Libya trying to compile the evidence the ICC would need to prosecute the case against Gaddafi. Abir Banchatwan is a human rights lawyer in Benghazi.
أهم شيء نعرفه أن التوثيق أهم شيء. فانطلقت من أول يوم من يوم 15 ويوم 16 17 فبراير بالتوثيق من خلال الشارع، من خلال المستشفيات، من خلال بعض الزملاء اللي كانوا يمدوا فيا من ميادين المعارك بالفيديو، وبديت نوثق في الجرائم اللي يرتكب فيها النظام.
The problem is, it's difficult to use video as evidence if it's from unknown sources and impossible to authenticate.
I was sent this video of a woman being raped with a stick by at least 2 men holding her down via one of the websites that the Libyans have sort of grouped together to talk about rape and what should happen in this country. I've seen it a few times now, and it's quite disturbing. At one point, when they stop raping her, she's, as you can hear, screaming. They start to kick her in the face. It's difficult to know where this is. It's difficult to even know if it's in Libya, but this video is one of a number that are circulating at the moment.
The only rape victim to come forward, Ayman al-Obeidi, escaped to Qatar through Tunisia amid huge publicity. The leader of the rebel Transitional National Council stoked the flames.
أنا أعتقد أن إيمان العبيدي ليست هي الوحيدة التي تم اغتصابها من كتاب القذافي، ولكن ربما كانت هي الوحيدة الأكثر شجاعة عن الإعلان عن نفسها في هذا السياق.
Earlier this month, a person claiming to be a rape victim called into a live satellite TV program.
بعدين في ثلاثة كانوا يشربوا، الثاني الأول أعطيته، بعدين الثانيين قاعدوا يشدوا فيها. المهم اعتدوا علي ثلاثة.
طيب سعاد، وبعد أن تم الاعتداء عليك؟
ما نعرفش كيف بنوصف لك، فهمت؟ يعني يقولوا لي في كلام كبير، فهمت؟ يقولوا لي عيش معمر، قولي عيش معمر وتحيا ليبيا.
هو ما فيش كذب، لكن ما فيش تدقيق. كون وجود جريمة فهي في جريمة وفي أعداد، لكن الكذب مش وارد. لكن اللي فزع الناس من ارتكاب هذه الجريمة تتناقل بعض الفئات في الموضوع من باب أكشن، لكن في جريمة في أعداد. إلى الآن لم يتم حصر العدد الصحيح، هو هذا اللي نقدر نقوله يعني، لكن ما فيش كذب يعني.
But in the absence of hard evidence, questions remain. Sharif Basiouni looked hard for credible evidence, but so far hasn't found anything to suggest that rape is as widespread as has been claimed.
Well, we did report on the few cases of rape that we heard of, but so far the numbers are few and far between, but the psychological impact on the Libyan society was enormous.
After weeks spent in both East and West Libya, listening to people who say they've either treated or counselled women who've been raped, it's difficult to believe it just didn't happen. But no one so far has come forward with incontrovertible evidence that it was widespread and systematic. Instead, as so often happens in war, both sides of this conflict have tried to use these claims to instill fear for their own benefit.
In all wars, in all conflicts of any type, you will find both sides always trying, each side, to discredit the other. And you discredit the other by delegitimizing the other, by attributing to the other some of the worst possible things. We don't really know. We don't know whether it existed only in order to create fear, whether it was propagandistic, what it was.
Yes, could be propaganda. We don't like to be part of the propaganda effort, so we are very careful. But if you want to stop women rape in Tripoli or in the area under Gaddafi, there's no way to protect them with fly zone or planes. You should just arrest Gaddafi, and then you solve the problem.
Whether it's deemed a war crime or not, rape is a fact of war, a horrible fact. And women are not the only victims. The truth can be a casualty too.
That's it for this edition of People and Power. If you'd like to comment on this film or anything else, we'd love to hear from you on aljazeera.net/English. Until next time, bye-bye.